and uh, and and also to Mr. Milind Chittawar, whom I know for a very long time. I congratulate you for starting this series. Of course, I have been attending the lectures on this series for quite some time. It's a wonderful series, and the topics selected, speakers, etc., are so good. So I am always tempted to attend it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
certainly.
I'm. Thank you for the opportunity given to me to share my views on this very important subject. Today not only in India but also globally. This is going to be the subject of uh, very great importance in future everywhere. So let me start with a little bit of about today's lecture. Uh, since the topic of the lecture is introduction to carbon trading scheme and carbon trading market and uh, national carbon markets. I am going to cover four particular items. This so I'll be sharing my thoughts on this particular uh, topic with all of you. I'm sure you know that this is the importance of this field. I think to cut it short, this carbon trading is it is being it was introduced long back in other countries, but it has very recently we started taking actions on it. It was there for some time even in India, but in a different form. This subject is important for any energy auditors, energy managers, energy professionals, because this is, in the journey of energy transition in India, to renewable energy, there is another transition which is also going to which is taking place as far as the energy auditors are concerned. That now the very familiar PAT scheme, which is which is under implementation since 2012, it's also slowly going to change to carbon credit and trading scheme. And we will have, so slowly and slowly, all the sectors will have to, abide by this particular scheme. We are slowly changing, transitioning from energy efficiency, which was the basis of our PAT scheme, uh, you know, uh, that is going to change to GHG emission scheme. So it is very essential that all the managers and auditors and energy professionals understand what is this energy trading scheme and what is the Indian carbon market going to be. So let me uh, start. I will skip this content because uh, uh, I don't want to spend my time because the time is limited. I will be making this. I will cut also some of the portions of this particular uh, PowerPoint presentation because for the want of time, I want to ensure that this is, completed within the period that is allotted to us. The subject is complex and is also not very easy to understand like PAT scheme. PAT scheme was, I would say, was much easy to understand, but this, carbon trading scheme is slightly complex, but I'll try to, make this presentation simple by, talking to in a very simple language. So I will not go too much into the technicalities, but my idea is that I explain the basics of the scheme, the history of the scheme in other countries, in global, global transmission schemes in all around the world, global markets, carbon markets, and Indian carbon market. That will be starting in India very soon. Uh, just to inform you, the carbon trading was introduced in the world long back to financially support emission reduction by the industries and businesses. It was prevalent in many countries, in as a tool, of exchanging carbon emission credits for a monetary value. Basically, this is a financial tool which is being used to support and encourage emission reduction in all over the world. So uh, this scheme was implemented by many industries and businesses in other world, and at the national level, this has been used for as a target for emission reduction in their particular nation. Okay. In India, of course, it is just getting introduced, right now. Okay. So before we go to the, to see what is happening in the country, what is the emission trading scheme in the country, and what is the Indian national carbon market? Let's have a look at the global scenario of emission trading and global market. So, the world has started with two types of energy trading scheme, which exist even today. One is the cap and trade scheme of the obligated entities. Now, I will later on explain to you what is obligated entities. These are basically like designated, uh, uh, agencies in the PAT scheme. Similarly, they are an obligated entities. I will explain to you later. Now, in each country, government gives certain targets to reduce the energy, the emission reduction, and all obligated entities have to reduce it to that particular level. If the entities which exceed their, with a higher level of emissions, then they have to buy. If they don't can't reduce it to the given level, they have to buy, and the agencies which lower their emission below the target, allow or target given, will get the certificates which they can sell. They call this, as the and then certificates are issued, of course, on the basis of certain procedures which are followed. This is cap and trade scheme, but this is nothing but a scheme where they can get the emission reduction certificate and they can trade it on a platform. There is another scheme which is called as a carbon offset scheme. Carbon offset scheme is for the non-obligated entities. That means it is there for the normal type of industries and businesses. They can voluntarily save the reduce the energy consumption and emission consumption, and they can get the credit like the other scheme, but they can also sell on a market. Those who save on voluntary basis, and those who want to buy, to fulfill their corporate responsibilities, can always buy it. So this is the scheme which is called the carbon offset scheme. These two types of schemes are very popular in throughout the world. So in the world, you can see that there are several emission trading schemes which are the names you can see on the slide. So basically, the emission trading started in Europe and all over the world, and there are these important international schemes I have listed over there. I will not go through the list to tell you. The one very important scheme is the European Union Emission Trading Scheme, which is popularly known as EU ETS. Now, this is for the European Union, and this is a voluntary scheme. All the schemes are not mandatory in Europe and other world. Some of them are voluntary, some of them are mandatory. The second scheme that is mentioned is climate change agreement, which is of UK, which is voluntary. Then we have got CRC energy efficiency scheme of UK, which is mandatory. Similarly, there are many schemes. You can see the list of around 10 to 12 schemes over there. You can go to that list at a later date if you want. But these are all world wide schemes, and they are in operation for a very long time. These are globally time tested, and they are being implemented, in entire Europe and the world. Now, there are certain carbon credit associations or institutes in the world. So some of them are International Emission Trading Association called IETA, Carbon Market Institute, Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition (CPLC), and European Federation of Energy Traders (EEFT). So these are also international trading associations or trading schemes. They have established carbon markets in the world, and some of the major carbon markets to list them. There is a list given over here. The important among them are Chicago Climate Carbon Exchange, then Carbon Trading Exchange (CTX), Chicago Climate Exchange Chicago, Carbon Market Platform of Germany, and Nasdaq. I think Nasdaq, many of you may be knowing, and then there are several others in various places in the world. Now, these in India, because we had started generating some carbon emission reductions, so there were certain agencies in the India who were also doing this trading, in the past. So these companies are PCBL Limited, Rain Industries Limited, and Goa Carbon Limited. Of course, this was not a very large scale operation in the country. Okay. Now, what is emission trading schemes and carbon markets in India? So let's come to the Indian scenario. So India, quite some time back, before the PAT scheme started, I think many of you will be knowing that it was around 2010 that Bureau of Energy Efficiency started thinking of the PAT scheme or the Perform, Achieve and Trade scheme. And so they had a look at various schemes which I mentioned earlier, about 10 to 12 schemes. They had a look at it very carefully, and so as to decide how how our perform, achieve and trade PAT scheme will be. So having studied these emission reduction schemes for reducing the carbon intensity, India chose not to go in for the for the emission reduction scheme, but for a specific energy consumption scheme. So what India chose was to go for an incentive scheme, which we know as the PAT scheme, for reduction of specific energy consumption. Apart from, uh, uh, whereas all European schemes are emission reduction. They give CER, certified emission reduction, whereas we are giving energy saving certificate. I think all of you know about that. Now this scheme, you know, this PAT scheme was applicable for, basically for reduction in energy consumption in industries, buildings, and businesses. But it also resulted in carbon emission reduction. So this was helping us to extend, although the emphasis was more on the reducing the specific energy consumption, and based on that, uh, you know, uh, there were incentives which are provided or the penalties which are provided on that. You all know that PAT scheme started in India in 2010. It was first floated, but first cycle started in year 2012, and it has, it is now in implementation in 13 industrial and commercial sectors, and which include also the building. And six PAT cycles have been already fully completed. PAT cycle, as you all know, is the 3-year cycle for implementation of the recommendation. After mandatory audit is over. So it has resulted. This PAT scheme has resulted in tremendous energy reduction as well as emission reduction also in the last 20 years, and therefore PAT scheme has become a very popular scheme. But considering that India has committed itself not only to use more renewable energy, as as a portion of our total energy consumption, but also we had given commitment to reduce the emission reduction. You know, you all of you will be knowing that all countries have to submit their nationally determined commitment to reduce the extent of fossil fuel based generation, and instead of in their place use renewable energy, but also emission reductions. Targets were given for various aspects. I will shortly come to that. So our first commitment to UNFCCC of the intended nationally determined commitment was first submitted by India in year 2017. But I think all of you will be remembering that our Prime Minister Modi, attended the COP26, and he announced our revised or improved NDC, that means nationally determined commitment, and that is to further reduce carbon intensity and the carbon emission. Okay, and since our Prime Minister announced that, India felt that now there is a need to introduce a direct scheme with a focus on emission reduction to meet our revised NDC commitment. Now, this was the beginning of our carbon emission reduction journey, or the carbon trading scheme journey in the country. Okay. So before we talk about the scheme per se, carbon credit or carbon trading scheme per se, let's first see what our NDC, nationally determined commitments are there. Okay. I will not go through the details, but I will only highlight, you know, the major points, major commitments that we made. So first commitment was that India will reduce carbon intensity emissions of GDP from 2005 level by 45%. I am not going to tell you about the old commitment, but our revised commitment, which was announced by our Prime Minister. So we said that we will reduce our emissions from 2005 level by 45%. We also committed that our carbon emissions we will reduce by 1 billion tons of CO2. The third commitment was that we will create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2, which is through an additional forestry and tree cover. This will be achieved by 2030. So these were all emission reduction related targets, and of course our original target of renewability of 450 gigawatt by 2030 was also raised to 500 gigawatt. So this was our fourth commitment, and we said that India will achieve, 50% of the power generation capacity installed will be non-fuel fossil fuel based by year 2030. And finally, the last, which we are all hearing for last few years, is that India again, our Prime Minister gave a commitment from the ramparts of Red Fort in New Delhi, that our net zero target is by year 2070. In addition to that, our government has also introduced a movement called LIFE, LIFE, which is healthy and sustainable way of living based on traditions and values of conservation and moderation. I think I will not go further into that, this aspect. So these being our nationally determined commitments at present. This was the basis. This necessitated that we have focused on the carbon reduction scheme. So this was so therefore we started in India. Our government started talking about carbon credit scheme, or what is also called as a carbon credit trading scheme. So this all the discussions, and process started. Okay. Now, before we again talk about the scheme, let's first understand what do we mean by carbon credit. For those who may not be knowing, but I think all of you know what is a carbon credit. But it's a way of, for various countries and businesses to offset their commitment, what they could not fulfill by buying the, emission reduction certificate, or by funding projects in other countries, developed countries, for emission reduction, so that they can get the credit, they can buy and get the credit, either by funding directly or through exchanges, through carbon markets which are already established there. The so this is called as the carbon credit, and this carbon credits they are measured, as you all know, is a 1 ton metric carbon dioxide emission reduction is equal to 1 carbon credit. So carbon definition is reduction of 1 metric ton of CO2, and so these credits can be bought and sold in the open market, which allow industries, businesses, buildings, and individuals to offset or fulfill their requirements of emission reduction commitment by purchasing this from the local market. So this is the basics of carbon credit. Now, what is the carbon credit scenario today in the country? So let's have a look at that. The carbon credit trading scheme, which was started in many countries, but trading also started in India. Even in India, the concept of carbon credit trading was there. It is not new, but not in the form in which we want to develop in future. Actually, there was a scheme called Clean Development Mechanism, which was being implemented in India. I'm sure you'll be knowing, all of you must be remembering that 2008 to 2012, CDM, after the Kyoto Protocol, CDM was in very much in under discussion throughout the world. So in India also, was participating. This was CDM was a program started by UNFCCC, and CDM allowed companies in the developed countries to like India to take up to fund the projects which will reduce the emission by these projects were either renewable energy projects or energy efficiency uh, measures taken to reduce GHG emissions. So credits were issued by the UNFCCC, which were for the reduction in carbon emission, and these certificates were awarded by UNFCCC, which could be traded only on the global carbon exchanges. So in India, those who install the projects for reducing energy, emission reduction, they were getting the certificate, but they had to go to the global carbon exchange because there no carbon exchange was available in India. Even now it is not there. We are talking about it. Okay. So CDM was implemented for quite some time, but however, because of certain reasons which I will not go into that, the CDM mechanism became non-functional, after 2012 or 2015, and since 2015 they started talking about on the new scheme after the Paris Agreement. You all know the thing changed, so CDM is no more, very operative for various reasons. So, as I mentioned, since India did not have an explicit carbon trading activity in the country, it did, of course, it did have, a mechanism, something like similar to carbon trading. Uh, that was, of course, there in the, or it is even now there in the form of trading of energy saving certificates, ESAT, as we know about it, uh, generated from the PAT scheme, Term Achievement Trade Scheme, and also the renewable energy certificate, REC. So these are being traded on Indian energy exchange. So so we had the know-how of trading of such similar certificates. So we did not have emission reduction certificate in India today. So uh, only thing is that we could have continued. India could have continued with the PAT scheme. Even because we are getting also emission reduction, but there were some shortcomings. It was only targeting to only certain aspects of energy efficiency, not the wider aspects of emission reduction. You know, uh, I think people who have worked with PAT scheme don't know that targets were very lenient. Many could overachieve it and overachieve it. So excess certificates were generated, and so there was a realization price for each that was very low. There was delay. Most of the scheme finally the certificates were given after about 18 months or so, and you can see all the six cycles have been completed, but trading of last five or six, fifth and sixth, fourth, fifth and sixth are yet to start. Okay, that is the situation. So they thought that we must have a new scheme which will have new set of rules and directly responsible for emission reduction. So, so realizing this, the carbon need for carbon reduction, India launched a program which is called National Carbon Emission Reduction Target (NCERT) program. So under this program, we would they would take up target to reduce emissions as defined in our national NDC. So this program is now regulated by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOEFTC, and it will be implemented. It will allow companies from iron, steel, textile, and almost all 13 sectors which are part of the PAT scheme to take part in the National Carbon Emission Reduction Program. So this NCERT, this program is a significant step towards combating the emissions, climate change, and emission reduction. So, uh, uh, as a necessary step, carbon in introducing carbon credit, it was necessary to prepare a carbon credit trading scheme. So it was necessary to prepare a scheme. So we will now discuss uh, some few major aspects of what the carbon credit scheme in India, how it was conceived and what is it going to be implemented. So now let's talk about the introduction of carbon credit scheme. Its short form is CCTS. That is the short form you will find everywhere being used in all Indian documents, or the carbon offset scheme. So this was initially, of course, notionally introduced in year 2022, and there were also rules for this particular scheme were notified in May 2023. But on 20th of June, central government notified through a gazette the carbon credit trading scheme 2020. That is the name of the scheme that appeared in Gazette on 20th of June. So all further actions uh, have been started with reference to this notification, as we will see. And this notification came into force right from the day it was announced, that is 20th of June 2023. That means now this particular scheme is a little over an year. This we are talking about carbon credit trading scheme, okay, or in other words, carbon offset scheme. So this is as this is a strategic initiative which is taken by government of India, and it will be implemented through Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So Bureau of Energy Efficiency will be overall in charge of this. The structure, of course, of this particular scheme we will be looking at a little later date. Okay. Now, this carbon credit trading scheme also defines the Indian carbon market, where a national framework is being established with again an objective to reduce or remove or avoid greenhouse gas emissions from the economy by pricing the green gases emissions reduction through a trading or carbon credit certificate. Now, this is like PAT scheme. This is also going to be an incentive scheme for most industries and businesses, because those who achieve again here results which are lower emissions than what is stipulated, they will get the certificates and incentives by selling them. And of course, those who can't achieve those targets which are given to them, they will have to buy. So this is also a financial scheme which will be, like PAT scheme, which will be implemented. The objective of the scheme is that countries' effort for energy transition will be can be implemented very smoothly, and we'll have this scheme implemented in almost all major sectors in the country. Okay, this particular CCTS, it proposes structures. There will be a voluntary market and there will be a compliance market. Okay, normally I would have said compliance market first because it is mandatory. Compliance market means this scheme will be mandatory for certain sectors which will be selected for this particular under this complement compliance market, and voluntary state we would have talked later on. But uh, compliance markets that will take some more time to establish. Voluntary markets can be started with quite quickly. So we are going to talk about this. Of course, we are going to talk about both, but in India, the action on voluntary markets is likely to be much faster. Okay. As it is mentioned that this scheme is both these schemes are for reduction, removal, or avoidance of greenhouse gases. It facilitates, of course, the trading of carbon credit certificates, which will be issued in this particular case by Government of India. So Bureau of Energy Efficiency will be the recommendatory, body, but certificates will be issued by Government of India. Each certificate will be equal to reduction of 1 ton of CO2 emission. So one credit certificate is 1 ton of CO2 reduction. Uh, the scheme, as we mentioned, includes both compliance and voluntary sectors, but compliance segment will start from 2025-26. Voluntary can start within now. Okay, or now means immediately. This particular scheme uses a cap and trade mechanism, which means there will be obligated agencies like our designated uh, industries in PAT scheme who will buy or sell the credit, carbon credit. This, as I mentioned, there are two mechanisms under this CCTS, carbon credit trading scheme. One is the compliance mechanism, where this is applicable to those who will have to, you know, who will have to compulsorily, participate in that scheme. And second is the offset mechanism, which is going to be voluntary. So first, let's talk of the compliance mechanism. The carbon credit scheme envisages carbon mechanism where registered entities. Now, I am going to use some terms which are similar to PAT scheme terms, but there is a slight difference. Okay, so I'll try to also explain. There is something called a registered entity. So, like our designated agencies, they under the CCTS, they will be called as the obligated entity. Obligated entity. So, a Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change will notify GHG emission intensity target. So, like PAT scheme, they were announcing under the PAT scheme the specific reduction in specific energy consumption. Similarly, but here there will be targets to reduce GHG emission intensity. So GHG emission intensity, what is it? I think many of you would be knowing, but I will also explain little later what is meant by GHG emission intensity. So the MOFCC will give target for reduction of tons of specific energy emission reduction. That is the tons of CO2 per unit of equivalent product or for each compliance cycle. What does it mean? So, like our specific energy consumption in the PAT scheme, here there will be CO2 emission per GDP or per product, to be reduced, to be reduction to take place in what is called the compliance cycle, like our 3-year cycle in PAT scheme. So this is a compliance cycle. So it's called a trajectory. of of the cycle. So obligatory uh, uh, entities will have to reduce this, will have to reach the target, and if they achieve lower emission intensity than specified, they will get certificates, and if they can't, they will have to, those uh, obligated agencies we can't achieve their target will have to procure, this emission certificate. So this is a uh, bit complicated, mechanism, but I will try to explain some parts of this. We will not go into very much detail of this particular mechanism. The second mechanism, which is the offset mechanism, is relatively simple to understand and also to implement. This offset mechanism is open to the non-obligated entities. Non-obligated entities means anyone who, it could be business, it could be industry, it could be individual who want to reduce their footprint, and uh, uh, because of the target they, as a corporate target, if they set. Now they, such agencies can also get the certificate, but they will have to register their projects which contribute to GHG emission reduction, and to be able to earn some tradable carbon credit certificate. So, so these two mechanisms are will be implemented. So let's talk now about carbon credit trading. So how will the carbon trading will be done in the country? So firstly, the businesses, under the offset mechanism, businesses can also trade carbon trading credit certificate to offset their emissions. Okay. Uh, so agencies, businesses, we do not want to claim carbon emission reduction, they can sell it. Okay. So companies, also who are manufacturing less carbon intensive products like cooking stoves, etc., or electric tractors, they can also, participate in this scheme and get carbon trading certificate. So this is, so offset mechanism is available to many uh, industries and businesses which are not covered by, uh, uh, as an obligated entity. So uh, as I mentioned, the compliance mechanism, which is for a which is a mandatory mechanism. That means the obligated entities, like, which we call in PAT scheme as designated agencies, they will have to reduce their carbon emissions based on the targets given to them. So as I earlier mentioned, MOE is Ministry of Economic, Environment and Forest will notify the DAG emission targets to such obligated agencies for complying, during the defined trajectory of OE. Now, defined trajectory means defined period, and that is also 3 years, like in PAT scheme. So, under this scheme, the obligated entities, they will be, of course, notified by the government, Ministry of Environment Forest. They will be under legal obligation to reduce emissions. This is similar to PAT scheme. In a way, PAT scheme and this CCTS, there are many similarities. Okay, so you will all find it easy to understand few things because there is a synergy, there is a similarity. Now, these obligated entities, are allocated certain number of credits depending on their permissible level, and which can be traded to in the market. Or this obligated entities notified with the annual target given by the government, they will have to, to fulfill their commitment. Now, unlike the PAT scheme, although the period this compliance period or the trajectory period is 3 years, but in this particular case, obligated entities will have to achieve annual targets. So that means they are, government want to have more stricter control because in PAT scheme, you will know the result only after 3 years, and there was no control. So in order to exercise more control and to actually ensure that reductions do take place to the required level, they have introduced annual. They will be introduced annual target for reduction of emissions. Okay, so of achievers of among the OEs, among the obligated entities, are entitled for issuing carbon credit certificates. Somebody that will get it, and non-achievers will have to purchase, carbon credit certificates. So this is like similar to PAT scheme. Now, what is an obligated entity? So, uh, so some of you, of course, may be knowing, those who may have studied this, but registered entities under the compliance mechanism, they will be called as the obligated entities. Now, registered entities means those all the agencies, participate in this CCTS will have to register. Obligated entities will be those for whom the implementation is mandatory. So, like PAT scheme is only applicable to 13 sectors. Also, there are threshold limits. Similarly, here too they will be similar mechanism. Of course, that is yet to be worked out. That is yet to be made known to the people. But it will be similar. So, these obligated entities will be called like designated consumer. You know, uh, so like that obligated entities will also be declared by the central government. Okay. Now, obligated entities uh, is the one who have to fulfill also their renewable energy target. Okay. So, and in India, this obligated entities will also include, apart from the industries, those 13 sectors. Of course, 13 is not decided in for emission reduction, but all 13 will be there probably. So apart from that, there will be distribution licensees, captive users, and open access consumers also will be included in the obligated entities category. Okay, so they have to also report RPO. They have to fulfill RPO commits and report also the RPO, data on a quarterly basis. So this is then obligated entity. All other businesses, industries, and individuals, they are called a non-obligated entities, but they will be taking part in the this emission reduction or CCTS. Now, there are certain terms which we must know about this CCTS. I will not be going through the entire you know mechanism, because one thing is the this compliance mechanism is uh, fairly complicated to understand. Also, it will take long time. But I will only explain some of the terms which are very commonly used, and which will be we and the knowledge of which is very essential for us. The first such term is the GHG emission intensity, and the second term is the emission factor. So what is the GHG emission intensity? So GHG means greenhouse gas emission intensity is the rate at which pollutants are emitted and related to the specific activity. Okay. So similarly, there are so there are other definitions for emission intensity depending on the whether it is industry, whether it's other activities. So there is a emission intensity which is specified, and it is in terms of, for generating units, the emission intensity will be in terms of the grams of carbon dioxide released per megajoule of energy produced, and for others it will be the greenhouse gas emission produced to gross domestic product, or to the whatever specific activity or production that it may have. So, like specific energy consumption, this is specific emission consumption per unit of production uh, which the company is having. Now, how to calculate emission factors? and how to calculate and what you mean by carbon footprint, how to calculate. These are given over here. I think for want of time, I will skip that. It will be, you know, uh, it will be, those who are interested can certainly have a look at it at later day. I will skip this particular slide. Uh, I will, even the other one also I will skip. Only thing is that I will only, I think there is a term which is called carbon footprint, which is used by all of us. Now, carbon footprint is may also, it means carbon emission reduction. It will be measured in terms of greenhouse gas, emission. A carbon footprint is the total greenhouse gas emissions caused directly and indirectly by the individual, organization, or event product. So it's calculated by summing the total emissions resulting from all these. Okay. So I think most of us know about the carbon. I will not talk much about the carbon footprint, but carbon footprint calculations are not very easy. So everybody will have to, learn about that. Uh, so, objective of the scheme is reduce specific emission reduction, and the specific targets which are given to the obligated agency, they will have to complete, they have to achieve that level in 3 years with annual targets given to them. All entities will have to submit a program how they are going to use it, in 3 years time, and this program will be monitored, very closely. Like PAT scheme, they will have to also, after the completion of the period, they will have to also, evaluate, their achievement by, appointing a carbon verification agency, CVA. Only they are allowed to, certify, carbon credit, whether it is applicable to a particular obligated entity or not. So carbon verification agencies are being, they are appointing all these carbon verification agencies. So all obligated entities will have to get their, emission achievements uh, evaluated and certified them. I will very quickly go through that because I think there is a time limitation with us. So, verification assessment of performance of the obligated is a very important step in this, and all this performance assessment will be done after an entity submits its performance assessment document, in the form which is specified B, and accredited carbon verification agency will go through that performance assessment document, as well as they will make visits to the plant, verify whether the emission reduction has really taken place by a site visit, and they have to then issue certificate, recommend to Bureau of Energy whether obligated agency is liable for, getting certificates or it has to pay penalty, similar to PAT scheme. I think I will quickly go through that. Now, this, as I mentioned, a carbon verification agency is under, they have already issued the advertisement, and government is in the process of appointing the carbon verification agency. Okay. The how to calculate carbon credits and issuance, there is the procedures have been already, they have been prepared, and very simply just to understand, like what is E-cert. So similarly, carbon credit or the number of carbon credits is equal to specific GHG emission notified for the respective compliance cycle. That means the target given notified to the obligated agency, minus the specific GHG emission achieved. So what they achieved at specific GHG emission in the respective compliance period, multiplied by the production in that compliance cycle. It is similar to, uh, target emission minus the actual emission, and as a production in that case production at the, at the, in the first year, earlier years, but here production in the compliance cycle throughout. So, and this Of course, carbon credits will be marketed through Indian carbon market. There is a steering committee which is formulated, National Steering Committee for Indian Carbon Market, which will you know which will recommend to Bureau of BEE how much time, how much credit should be issued to a particular obligated agency. Bureau of Energy, after getting the approval from central government, they will issue the certificate to the obligated agency, similar to our PAT scheme. Now, how like PAT scheme, there is a trading and banking of credit, carbon credit certificate facility available. So steps for trading and banking are also given over here. These are similar to that. First, the obligated entity has to register, uh, you know, with the registry. There is an entity called registry. Then, after the registrance is there, they have they have to also submit all the details of their emission reduction. They have to pay required fees. The non-obligated entities who want to purchase CCD or trade, they also have to register with the ICM, Indian Carbon Market Registry, and they have to also submit the relevant details and pay the fees. So they will be registered, and all successful registered, both obligated entities and other non-obligated entities, they will be given a certificate of registration. And the certificate registration is mandatory for any trading activity on the of the emission reduction. Now, CCT will be traded, of course, over the power exchanges or energy exchanges under the procedure, following the procedure which is defined by again CERC. So the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission has formulated a procedure for trading, and there are certain terms and conditions which are given in the basic document. Now this carbon credit certificate can also be banked. That means after an obligated entity completes the compliance cycle, whatever balance, that means the certificate it has received can be banked for the use in the next cycle by the same entity, or it can be sold. They can sell it, and those who cannot achieve, of course, naturally they can buy. They will have to buy certificates from the market. The carbon credit training of business and companies also has the similar procedure will be followed. So so these companies who are generating, getting carbon credit certificates for renewable energy, but don't need carbon emission reduction, can sell these certificates on the market. Okay. So energy intensive, low energy intensive appliances also can get the certificate. Now let's come to the national carbon market. As mentioned earlier, need for carbon market in India was there for quite some time to facilitate achievement of the current and future indices. So that's it. That was the basic objective of establishing carbon market. It was also to facilitate identification of innovative emission reduction opportunities provided to uh, the companies and industries. It was also to stimulate investment in clean technologies in various sectors, and also to leverage potential international collaboration, or and financing opportunities to be made available to the Indian counterpart. So, as I mentioned earlier, a bill was introduced in the Parliament in year 2022, and a scheme was, of course, gazetted in 2023. What is the Indian carbon market? So, in simple terms, carbon markets are the trading systems in which carbon credits are sold or bought. So, it is a very simple definition of a market, and companies or businesses can use this market to compensate for their greenhouse gas emission, requirement fulfillment by either selling or purchasing those carbon credits. So one, as it is as mentioned, one tradable carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of CO2 reduced. Okay, and once the credit is utilized, to fulfill their requirement. Here, the offset is gone, so it is not no longer tradable. Once that credit is used as your fulfillment of a particular entity. The Now let us see what is the function of the uh, Indian carbon market or national carbon market. As you can see in this this picture, you have got two entities, emitter A and emitter B. Emitter A is an entity, obligated entity which has not been able to reduce emission to the target given. So it has got excess GHG emission. It is given in the red. On emitter B has reduced it below the allocated emission by the ministry. So it has reduced the emission level below that. So it will get the carbon credits and it will sell in the carbon market, and the emitter A will have to go to carbon market for purchase of it. So it is very simple mechanism, which is which is new to the PAT users. Okay. I will not go through much in detail on the objectives. Of course, it is meant to develop a domestic carbon trading market, which will be available for all Indian industrial sectors, businesses, entities, buildings, and others. And so, therefore, uh, this this will provide a market-based trading mechanism. That means the carbon credits will be traded for a value. So there will be incentives available for those who can perform better, and of course, for those who cannot perform, they will have to pay. The name of the scheme is called cap and trade. That means it is you save credits and sell carbon credits. You sell in the market. Okay. Uh, so this and of course this can provide incentive to to uh, uh, to the industry to adopt low cost options. Attract and attract technologies which will be available at a low cost. Carbon markets are also vehicle to mobilize significant part of the investment will go into Indian economy. Okay. The importance of the carbon market cannot be overemphasized. This will help channelize financial resources to support emission reduction or remote activities. Carbon market will put a price on the GHG emission, and so therefore it will be rewarding for those who can reduce their carbon emissions, or it will be a incentive for those who cannot achieve it. So therefore, it serves both the carrot and stick approach is there on this particular mechanism. Carbon markets can benefit local people and local communities because people can directly go into the Indian market. Now, carbon market will also unlock many cost-effective mitigation activities or solutions to realize our Paris goal. So this is about what is going to be type of Indian market. So there are going to be two types of markets, as I mentioned earlier also, compliance markets and voluntary markets. Compliance markets will result in national because it is going to be mandatory. So it is going to result in large scale emission reduction at national, regional, and international level, and so at a national and regional level. And so very important for the country. Voluntary market, of course, again important, and they will be available to the common public in general. So voluntary carbon market refers to the issuing, buying, and selling of carbon materials on a voluntary basis. Now there is the demand for because voluntary market is going to be started soon. There is for the requirement of voluntary carbon market. So the voluntary carbon market, the demand is already very high, and as you can see, the voluntary credit market has reached a level of about 3 trillion in year 2023 itself. Now, I will just explain this slide, I think, and I'll explain this, the structure of the market. So you can see that in this particular chart, you can see that, the demand for carbon market was 40 metric tons of CO2 equivalent for the renewable energy market, but the price was $1.4 per ton of CO2. Whereas for the energy efficiency, you can see that the market size demand is low, 6 metric tons CO2, but price is high, 3.9. Highest price is of course for forestry and land use, where of course the total demand is going to be about 28 million tons of carbon equivalent. So the demand, in short, demand is going to increase. This was the projection of 2019. Demand is going to increase, and there are various approaches, which are also, which have been announced. So phase one, again, the short term, long term, and medium term is there. To start with, ESERTs and RECs will be taken into account as a short-term measure, and there are medium-term, long-term measures will be taken for voluntary market development in India. So I think the last slide that we would like to show to you and then stop here is the journey of Indian carbon market development. So so these are the landmarks. In year 2022, the Energy Conservation Act was amended, empowering the central government of India to notify carbon credit trading scheme and issuance of carbon credit certificate. So that was December 2022. In year 2023, in June, the CCTS compliance mechanism was notified, as we mentioned, 28th of June. In December 2023, voluntary offset mechanism was notified. In March 2020, 9 sectors for compliance mechanism were identified. In 2022 till today, 10 sectors for offset mechanisms have been also identified in May 2024, and by September 2024, it was expected that publication of accredited and the procedure will be issued. Registration of accredited agencies, was already under process. And the future program is that development of offset, market procedure will be and announced, and also the IIT portal will be installed by December 2024, and by October 2026, the tentative target for the Indian carbon market to start. So this is the timetable. I think I'll skip this particular slide. Institutional framework. I will just in a half a minute I'll explain to you. There is a steering committee, which consists of secretaries of government, Ministry of Power and Ministry of Forest, Environment and Forest. Then there is a governing body, which also consists of secretaries of again these two ministries. They have an advisory role. Steering committee will monitor the whole thing. There is the ICM, Indian Carbon Market Administration. Administrator is Bureau of Energy Efficiency, like PAT scheme. There is a regulator, like PAT scheme. The regulator is same, the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, who will come up with all rules, regulations, etc. There is a technical committee to provide technical support, a registry to register, the buyers and sellers on uh, uh, Indian carbon market. There will be exchanges, that means the carbon, it's the real carbon market where the trading will take place. So most probably the existing Indian energy exchange, and there are three power markets which will be also roped in for this. Verifiers, as you know, like you know, there will be accredited verifiers, emission verifiers, and there are project proponents that need to prepare related documents. The entities will be project documents. So these are the this was all about the national carbon market. The national carbon market is still at an I would say it's still some time for it to start operating, but already the entire mechanism is already ready. government is totally prepared to take this operation. So I think with this, I would like there are references given in for those who want to refer. So with this, I think I would like to close the uh, whatever I wanted to share about the CCTS and about the national or Indian carbon market. If you have any questions, I am open for any question uh, on the topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gandhe. That was very elaborate. And of course, there are, I mean, because of short of time, there are so many questions which still, I mean, which still needed more attention. Maybe we will cover it up next time, some other
Yes,
in some
yes,
other session. So before I open the floor for the questions, I myself have question. Last time when CDM was in effect, so in that voluntary credit markets were flourishing, and it was giving a very good rate for the carbon credits. Many of the Indian industries, especially pharma companies and food companies, so they got a very good benefit out of it. Then
yes,
suddenly, in I think 2014, the rates went down to such a level that it was making no sense in selling those credits, right? So, and then it got stuck. The complete activity got stuck up that time.
yes, yes,
So, like this time, like how is it different? I mean, in terms of monetary value, I'm saying, like for those who will be having additional credits, so how can they make a use of it or get benefit out of it?
yes. So as you all know, CDM was the industries and businesses in other countries. They were investing in the projects, emission projects in the developing countries, and it was entirely left to them how much to invest, where to invest, how much to invest. Also, the trading mechanism, there there had to be buyers of this uh, carbon credit emission. That time they used to call as carbon emission reduction (CER). But
Yeah.
the activity level, because of the lack of support, they did
Yeah.
not finance many projects, and the activity level was so low that eventually the if the price of the CR went down very low because there are no buyers. There was no compulsion, in the other countries to buy and reduce emissions. Most of the governments were not very serious whether countries achieve their emissions or not. So as a result of multiple factors, the price of the CER went down, from level of 15, 20 for CER to it came to zero point 0.5 or even 1 or 2. So that actually, and later on, the finance commitments which were made on, under the agreement, crypto agreement, they did not, pursue with that. So as a result, the activity there was no support, and so it naturally it almost died. One wouldn't say that it died, but it just ended because of various reasons. But in India, for this particular scheme, CCTS, it's not going to face similar situation because first of all, it is our government which has started this scheme with objectives. It is like PAT scheme which has been hugely successful, and so there is no doubt that in India this uh, national carbon market and CTS scheme will work because PAT scheme, for those PAT scheme is applicable, they will have to compulsorily get transited to the emission market, and also more and more sectors are coming into this particular market. So this particular scheme has a bright future, and government will see to it that there is no such they might intervene also to ensure that there is the price of the credit carbon credit certificate does not go down. So this has with the government, since government is fully supporting, and we have to meet our NDC target through this particular scheme. So government of India will ensure that it is successful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, sir. And now let's move on to attendees' questions. Mr. has a lot of questions, and I have allowed him to talk. So, Anish, you may directly ask your questions, please. Yeah, Anish, are you there? Yeah, okay. In the meantime, let me read out his question. So his question is, what is the difference between GHG lead verifier and GHG lead validator certification? Is there any limitation for verifier alone compared to verifier or validator? Which is good for CCTS, Government of India schemes, and for consultancy activities abroad?
Okay. As it is mentioned, verifier is absolutely essential, under the scheme, because he has to verify whether the emissions have got reduced, and to whatever is the commitment. So it is absolutely essential to have verifiers. Okay. Validators also, there are certain agencies who will also validate. You know, Basically there is not much difference between the verifier is the appointed one by, so every obligated entity will have to appoint a verifier, and his report will have to be submitted to Bureau of Energy Efficiency for the getting the carbon credit certificate. Validation will be, there is no much difference between the two. Validation can be done by some agencies which are already operating in the country. Verification is a must.
Sir, I hope I'm audible. I think I lost the mic in between, so now I got it. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, actually, the doubt is like there is only one agency in India, as per my knowledge, who is giving validator come verifier certificate. I'm not
Yeah.
naming that agency, and
Yeah.
some other agencies giving only GHG verifier only. And also, the second question is like it is a continuous question actually. Some agencies giving 32-hour course for lead verifier or validator. Some agencies are giving 40 hours course, and the course duration and number of days are correctly mentioned in the certificate also. So that if people are going for certification, they have so many doubts like what is the course duration, minimum duration, how much it should be, and what is the difference between verifier and validator. And based on that, the cost also is varying, because these agencies giving certification, there is no standard cost. Just like if we are writing Bureau of Energy Efficiency Certified Energy Auditor, the cost is fixed, which is 10,000 rupees. And for accreditation, it is 1,000 rupees. So here there is no standard benchmark cost. So as per our negotiation, they will reduce the cost also, as per their convenience. And also the agency which is giving validator this verifier training, the cost is bit high. So these doubts came into not only my mind, the team who is working with me is a big team. So that's two questions from my side, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Actually, you must be knowing that Government of India is going to appoint a verifier and validator. Okay. As per the already the TOR has been issued, I think they are in the process of appointing them. Okay. You know that for any course, for training course, there is no course which is approved by the. Okay. These are all courses which are by different agencies, which for passing the examination, BE examination, they were courses. Similarly, for for accrediting, there are certain minimum essential qualifications which are given over there to ensure that the those who want to be validator or verifier, they have to possess certain, they have to fulfill those those requirements. So as per the different agencies, they take their own timing. So I don't think there is going to be any restriction on the number of hours for which the course is to be taken up, also on the fees. So over a period of time, because these are all something which are new, we don't know who is good and who is not so good. We don't know who is good, which certificates will be valid or not. But so therefore, we will have to wait for some more time before the things stabilize. But in the meantime, to start with, just as the PAT scheme when it started, we'll have to decide on our own whether depending on we see what is the coverage of that particular course and vis-a-vis what are we going to get through this course. There is no such guideline over here. Not does anyone have any experience to say that yes, this course is better than the other course. There is no such experience as of now.
I hope that answers your question, Anish. Now we have another question from Mr. Mohan R. So his question is how the quantity of CO2 emission is measured for actual trading.
See, CO2 emission means it is, it is not only CO2 but all GHG emission. Okay, so we are not saying that this is the CO2 emission, but GHG emission. So GHG emission intensity, I skipped that definition. Since time is limited, I will not open that PPT. But these are defined. What is GHG emission intensity is how much CO2 equivalent. That means all GHG emissions in a particular place will be converted into equivalent CO2, and then that CO2 emission equivalent, that will be in terms of the tons of carbon equivalent. So commutation intensity per ton of carbon equivalent per per unit product. That will be the measure of certificate.
Okay. I hope, Mr. Mohan, you got your answer. And now next question is from Mr. Ranjit Raj. So he says, can industries like MSMEs, other than obligated entities, voluntarily participate in the carbon credit trading scheme? Yes, I think.
Yes, answer is yes. MSME, like any other, can participate and get the benefit of this scheme. They can save emission reduction. They can buy. They can sell those emission reductions. They can get the benefit. Answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now another question from Mr. Bharat Pavuluri. So who are some of the leading accredited carbon verification agencies in India?
So in India there are still it is not published. So it is. I would not dare to take
Right.
some names. But
Yeah.
most of the agencies who are involved in PAT verification, so many of the scheme will also be there, in this particular carbon credit scheme. So you can those agencies will be there. I think you all know the names of the agencies under the PAT scheme, so they will be there, most of them. Of course, unless they uh, don't fulfill some criteria, because criteria for registration of this verifier agencies, is little stringent. They have to have some minimum business. They have to have some uh, other technical criteria also. So,
Yeah.
but most of them you can expect them to be there.
Now, Mr. Sudarshan K is asking whether entities not notified in CCTS, can they sell their credits to obligated entities?
Yes.
Yes.
They to obligated as well as non-obligated entities. They can sell it to them.
Yeah.
The scheme provides for that.
He's further asking what will be the baseline carbon benchmark for the non-notified entities. Yeah.
Benchmark means what does they mean?
I think he means with the minimum credits that are generated or something like this.
I don't think there is any such limit, at least not specified as of today. There is no limit specified. That how much minimum should be marketed. I think eventually these will be when the market starts. There is still some more time for the market to start. So they might evolve certain limits, over a period of time. But as of now, there is no thinking of that. That's why when they have mentioned that businesses, industries, and individuals can also take part in the scheme. That means they expect that even in the small numbers of certificates can also be traded on this market. No limits are yet specified by government.
Okay. So we have covered all the questions. And thank you, sir. Thank you for patiently answering.
Sorry, I took little longer time, so I
No,
tried
no,
to
no. It,
run through many of the things I skipped, but certain things which were necessary, I thought even at the cost of exceeding some time, I should communicate with them. Thank you for allowing some more time than the prescribed time.
It's fine. We always do that. There should be satisfaction on both the sides
Yes.
once we are covering the topic. So
Yeah.
I ensure always. And if you have any further questions, you may kindly get in touch.
I may like to add here that this is just the beginning of national, credit scheme and carbon market. There are many more. We will be hearing about that on this a lot in future. And since we are going to transition to GHG emission trading, we'll have to learn, and a lot of experts are already talking about it. There are some people I know, at least 4 or 5 people, who can tell you more about this particular scheme. If you need, to have another advanced lecture from those people, we can have it, because things have proceeded. This was just to give you an idea, broad idea about the schemes, global schemes, and Indian schemes and Indian carbon market, broad structure. But there are many more things which are already decided or which are being talked about. You can call some experts who are there in this field. They can tell you more about it.
Right. So I am sharing Mr. Dhananjay's email ID over here in the chat box. And if you have any further questions, you may get in touch directly with him. Regarding presentation, as always, we will be publishing it on our YouTube channel. Recording will be there, and you can go through it and also refer it to others, those who would like to go through it. And kindly request all of you to kindly subscribe to our channel so that you can keep on receiving notifications about the new videos that we upload over there. And thank you everyone for attending this session. Thank you, Mr. Gandhe. It was really a good learning session, and moreover, it was an awareness of upcoming thing, and better all the members are prepared for the future when opportunities that these schemes are going to give us. Hope you enjoyed the session and look forward for your attendance in future sessions also. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.